Fantastic session. I know everybody wants to network, connect. That's what the Zero is about. Connecting, innovating. But the next session is also quite important. Colleagues, may I kindly ask you to take your seats? The next session of accessibility in aviation is going to start quickly. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. If you can hear me, clap one time. You're not hearing me. Thank you for those of you who have been hearing me. I said, if you can hear me, clap one time. Only once, okay? If you can hear me, clap one time. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. Perfect. Thank you, thank you. So, thank you so much, thank you so much. We're going to start another interesting session. So, how many of you have ever traveled on the plane? Can you say, whoo? Have you traveled on the plane? Woo! Yes, thank you so much. So I'm not alone. I came here with a plane. Oh my goodness, you see? The problem of a blind person is I cannot talk if somebody else is talking. Thank you. Thank you. If I hear you talking, I'm going to ask you a question, okay? Good. So, with aviation, we're going to unlock a whole travel chain discussion. And we are extremely lucky to have the amazing panelists in this channel, spamming from booking our flights, arriving to the airport, experiencing the airport, checking in. Yes, I'm going to give the mic for whosoever I hear talking in this room because I want them to be heard. Perfect. So, checking in, boarding the plane, and then navigating the entire airplane. We have our issues. We have our challenges. And I'm so happy today we have people who are here from different organizations, including Airbus, Turkish Technology, Istanbul Airport. Amazing, amazing panelists. Can you give them a big round of applause for showing up? Yes. So, welcome aboard on our session on accessible aviation, because mobility is not a privilege. It is a prerequisite for participation, for equality, for opportunity. We travel for medical reasons, for tourism, for work reasons. So it is an avoidable but also enjoyable experience. But when it comes into accessibility, we still have a long way to go. So I'm so glad that we have colleagues and panelists who will, through their discussion, show us what is the progress so far, what are the solutions available, and what are our challenges that would need more innovation. Without further ado, I would like to invite the moderator of this Accessibility in Aviation Solution and Standards. Because it's not about one-time experience. We talk and we care about standards. The floor is yours. Enjoy, stay tuned, participate actively, and interact with each one of them, even after the session. Over to the panelists.
Thank you so much, Yeti. Can everybody hear me well?
Yes, loud and clear.
Thank you so much. So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Accessibility in Aviation, Standards and Solutions Across the Travel Chain. My name is Roman Romanoff, and I am joining you today from the Rick Hansen Foundation in Canada. I'm the director of the Accessibility Advisory Services arm of the foundation, also called Access in Motion. and I'll be chairing today's forum. I am a white Caucasian male, blonde hair. I'm wearing a navy suit with a white shirt and a tie, blue tie. Joining me today, I have 4 esteemed panelists, each representing a link in the aviation chain that forms the potential journey for a person. So I'll start with Engin. Engin Yilmaz from Turkish Technology leads accessibility at Turkish Technology, working directly on airline digital systems, booking, ticketing, and mobile platforms to ensure independent use by blind and disabled travelers. He holds a PhD focused on disability perception among blind people and directs GETEM, Turkey's leading assistive technology lab. He's joined by Utku Demiryakan from also Turkish Technology. Utku has been working in the field of disability rights and accessibility since 2019 across diverse organizations, including NGOs, startups, and enterprise companies. Throughout this journey, he has gained experience in nearly every aspect of accessibility, from auditing accessibility issues to conducting user interviews with persons with disabilities and contributing to inclusive design practices. Currently, he works at Turkish Technology as an accessibility specialist, and as a partially sighted professional, his main focus areas include UX design, user experience design, and accessibility, the legal dimensions of accessibility, and fostering effective communication to spread inclusive solutions. We have also with us Hilal Karaman from IGA Istanbul Airport. Hilal is the Experience Design and Segment Management Assistant Manager at Istanbul Airport. A key member of the customer experience team, her mission is to enhance the airport experience, making it smoother and more enjoyable for passengers, employees, and stakeholders, while embracing the warmth of Turkish hospitality. She focuses on 8 guest segments, including people with disabilities, and has been dedicated for the past 7 years to promoting accessible and independent travel. In recognition of her efforts, Hilal received the 2021 CXPA Impact Award for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Outcomes related to CX. In 2025, she became a certified customer experience professional, further affirming her expertise and commitment to excellence in the field. We then have Hans Giese from Airbus. After joining Airbus in 2003, Hans held various positions in the field of human factors in cabin and cargo. In 2016, he was appointed as senior expert for this field, providing guidance for technical decisions on ergonomics, comfort, health, usability, and cabin operations. He also acts as Airbus engineering focal for accessibility of aircraft cabins. Hans holds a doctorate in human machine systems from Technische Universität Berlin and has an interdisciplinary background in engineering and psychology. And last but not least, we have Michelle here by my side. Michelle Irwin is the president of All Wheels Up, president and CEO of All Wheels Up. Her interest in accessible air travel began in 2011 when it became clear traveling with a physical disability was not safe. Today, Michelle works to further accessible air travel through research, advocacy, and education. All Wheels Up was the first organization to fund the dynamic and static testing for wheelchairs and tie-down systems for in-cabin use. All Wheels Up work has been used to create pathways for stakeholders to develop a concept for a wheelchair spot on planes. And today, All Wheels Up is considered a leader in accessible air travel research, so much that Michelle was actually appointed by the Biden administration to sit on the Air Carriers Access Act Committee. So now that you know a bit about our panelists, I'd like to provide a little bit of framing for today's discussion. So my name is Roman, as I said. I'm an architect by training, and my journey with accessibility is both professional and personal. I'm blind in one eye, which means I experience space, depth of movement a little bit differently, and don't ask me how I became an architect. It's a mystery, and nobody knows how, and neither do I. But that lived experience is what first drew me to the intersection of design and access. And over time, it's also what convinced me that accessibility is not a constraint on good design, but it's actually the thing that reveals design quality most clearly. When environments work well for people with the highest access needs, they tend to work better for everyone. And I'm deeply convinced that accessibility holds the key to design excellence. And that belief is shaping today's conversation and how I'd like us to approach it. So it's also central to the work of the Rick Hansen Foundation, which is the organization I'm representing today. The foundation, in case you never heard of it, we specialize in the design and performance of the built environment. We work with organizations globally, especially airports, to evaluate how they actually function for people with disabilities, and those will be various disabilities starting from vision, hearing, cognitive, obviously mobile, intellectual, etc. And not just how they technically comply with minimum requirements. So our approach is grounded in universal design principles, international accessibility standards, and evidence-based best practices drawn from real-world use that I hope also our panelists will be able to speak to today as well. And through our certification programs, we evaluate the entire user journey within a building, how someone arrives, enters, navigates, accesses services, finds information, uses amenities, and exits across, as I mentioned, physical, sensory, and cognitive dimensions. And importantly, this goes beyond compliance. The compliance-only models tend to penalize non-compliance, whereas we would like to actually take a different approach that rewards innovation. And I think Zero Project as a forum is an innovation driving forum that I'd like to also highlight today with different solutions in aviation. So the industry benchmarking tool that we've built that recognizes this innovation encourages continued improvement and gives organizations a shared credible language for what meaningful access could actually look like. And we've demonstrated this in almost every airport in Canada, but also LaGuardia Airport, Terminal B. If you've flown through LaGuardia in New York, it has actually received gold certification from our foundation. And many others, of course. But what's important for today's discussion is that this kind of journey-based evaluation mindset is actually something that can be scaled, but it's also more complex than just the building. So in a building, we look at a complete journey within one environment, but today we are going with this panel to expand that logic a little bit outward and looking at the entire user journey across multiple environments, operators, formats, and modalities. So aviation brings together digital systems, physical infrastructure, human procedures, and regulation that are often designed in silos, okay? But experienced by travelers as a single continuous journey. So oftentimes, once a single link in that chain is broken, the entire journey is compromised. And oftentimes we even see, maybe even every single link being broken, and that what happens to that journey. So I've said enough. I'd like to kick us off into the conversation. And I'll start with a bit of a rapid round for our panelists. Around 2 minutes each for an answer. And I'd like to ask the panelists to respond to the following prompt. And I'll start with Engin. Engin, what do you think is holding back accessibility in aviation?
Thank you, Roman, for your providing. Hello, everyone. Maybe I think we should describe ourselves physically. Is it true? Okay, I am I am 46 years old, but I feel 26. And people tell me that Utku and Hilal told me that I have brown hair. Is it true, or they lie me? True? Okay. And I have 173 centimeters long, like that. And related to your question, I think the most important point in that position is paradigm. On the good side, the good news is aviation sector is maybe one of the most important sectors which provide most structured and systematic services for disabled people. This is the fact. But we have also a negative side. And this negative side is that they conceptualize disability as a prejudgment and overgeneralization point. Okay, most of the discrimination occurs in aviation most of the time because for aviation sector, all blind people are the same. All physically disabled people have used wheelchair like that. Or there is overgeneralization, and most of the times they conceptualize disability as dependent, passive help receivers. This is very problematic in terms of us. And for equal, accessible, and barrier-free aviation sector, we need independence. We need to be seen, perceived as active individual passengers who may have different needs like other ordinary people. Actually, the expectation is to become an ordinary passenger. No more than that, no less than that. This is very important. And I think this starts from digital accessibility, because you need to buy your ticket, you need to check in, you need to learn what kind of services for you are available in the airport, in the airplane, like that, and all of starts from these digital services. But unfortunately, 76% of the aviation sector websites or other kind of mobile application have accessibility problem. People either do not have opportunity to buy their ticket independently, even if they can purchase, then they fail to manage their tickets, or they fail to check in. Even if they do that, they fail to give a feedback after flight like that. So because of that, most of the times, aviation sector says, I can help you, I can guide you to the plane, I can take you from the plane to the place, but they don't see us as an independent, ordinary passenger. So in the first grant, we need to change that paradigm.
Thank you so much, Engin, for that. That is definitely a paradigm shift, is one of the things that I like the most as a concept, so thank you. I want to ask Hilal the same question, please. What do you think is holding back accessibility in aviation from your perspective?
Okay, firstly, thank you for this nice introduction, Roman, and I would like to thank the all Zero Project team for making this wonderful, accessible, and insightful event possible. I am Hilal. I have brown hair, brown eyes. I'm in my 30s. Okay, close to 40, but still in 30s. I'm wearing black pants and a beige blazer. So, regarding the question, most probably some of you came here via air traveling, and you experienced at least 2 airports and 1 airline to be able to come to here. So air travel requires collective and synchronized collaboration among various stakeholders like airlines, ground handling companies, airports, or service providers, government authorities. So this collaboration is not limited to single region. Entities worldwide must deliver consistent and standardized solutions to ensure a seamless journey. So what's holding back accessibility in aviation today is lack of standardization among all these entities. So actually, in fact, compared to many other sectors, aviation is one of the most globally standardized industries due to international regulations, but still we have a long way to go in making truly end-to-end accessible journey. So, thank you.
Thank you, Hilal, for that. We'll return to those standards and the way the experience is quite fragmented. I'd like to ask Hans the same question, please. What is holding back accessibility in aviation from your perspective?
Hello to everyone. I'm a tall white man in the late 50s. I have thinning gray hair and wear glasses, and today I'm wearing a dark suit with a blue shirt. And to answer the question, what is holding back accessibility, I would state nothing is holding us back. We are working on it. But changes in our industry are slow by nature. So we are an extremely safety-driven industry, and for every change to our aircraft, we ensure that the result is safe for everybody. And this is complicated, this is time consuming, but it has to be done. And let's take traveling with your own wheelchair as an example. So we have Michelle here in the panel. She will talk more about that than me. But yeah, if we work as an aircraft manufacturer on this topic, how people can stay in their wheelchairs instead of moving to a regular passenger seat, we are far away from any standards. So this is about innovation with a lot of technical challenges. Just to have wheelchairs that are crash safe, so that they doesn't break up in an accident, or we need technical means to strap both the wheelchair and the person safely. This needs research, certification. The authorities have to create a way or the necessary rules to make this happen. And for us as a manufacturer of the aircraft, the fitting of the wheelchair in the cabin is also a big challenge. So nothing holds us back, but unfortunately it's slow in our industry.
That's I like that nothing is actually holding us back, but also at the same time it's just complicated. So thank you, Hans, that's great. Michelle, please, maybe you can also tell us what is, in your opinion, holding back accessibility in aviation?
Absolutely, thank you. Hello, can I get the clicker, please? Or
Is this clicker?
yeah, thank you. Sorry. Oh, thank you very much. It's already up. So I agree with Hans. I don't think anything is holding us back from improving accessible air travel, but to just jump off where Hans said, it's complicated, and Hans is only just talking about the plane itself, but when you look at everything that needs to happen to improve accessible air travel, there are many organizations that have never worked together before that are now working together to create say a wheelchair spot on airplanes. And so we have, in this slide, you'll see the disability community obviously giving their input, but then we also have the wheelchair tie-down manufacturers, we have the regulators, we have legislation that needs to be passed, we have, of course, the airlines, then we have the wheelchair manufacturers, then we also have the medical industry, and we're talking about human factors and occupational therapists and physiatrists who are also involved in making sure that this pathway of a wheelchair spot is safe for the community. We work with a lot of universities on research to move this forward, and that is actually a very economic way for us to investigate the future of accessible air travel. And then we have advocacy groups like All Wheels Up, but other great organizations that have taken on the platform of accessible air travel. And then we have the aerospace industry, and that's like organizations like Hans, but there's a lot within just that area in itself. And so it's a very complex world, and it's a very conservative industry. But also, whether you're a large organization or a small organization like mine, at the end of the day, we need the dollars to move it forward, and we all are struggling to get that investment to make change quickly. I think that's it in a nutshell.
Thanks, Michelle. I think that's something that we will see a lot during today's conversations, is that it's really a complicated and a multifaceted process, both for the passenger, but also for all the stakeholders involved. And the big challenge here is, how do we make it? How do we raise the level in each one of those and those pieces? So we're going to do a bit of a structured, moderated discussion for the next, I would say, about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And I want to ask, again, go back to our panelists and maybe start with Utku with some very specific questions to each one of our panelists. And then wrap it up with perhaps some Q&A from the audience. So if you have any questions, please save them up for the end and we'll get to that. But Utku, maybe you can start us off with your thoughts on where do you think the digital or security process in airports unnecessarily removes independence, and what would restore autonomy?
Okay, is it working? Yes. Thank you. I am Utku from Turkish Technology as well, with Engin. I'm wearing green shirt and dark blue pants, and I have long hair and long beard and mustache. To answer the question, digital accessibility is a technical issue, but is not a technical issue. As Engin have mentioned, this is about real users, and a passenger's journey begins with airline website. When you encounter with an accessibility issue in website, this is a huge disappointment. For example, when you cannot click search flight button with your screen reader, this means you need an assistant to complete your operation, and this is an issue about human dignity, and this is about equality, and this is about independence. So digital accessibility is not only a technical issue, it's about real users. And also, in this morning's keynote, Nikki Lilly from Face Equality International has also tell a different story about digital accessibility again as well. They mentioned about what people with facial differences experience in the passport security checks. And we have to make these passport check issues, passport security check issue also accessible to treat everyone equally, and make all the process accessible, inclusive for all. And what should be done? Co-creation is a key message in Zero Project conference as well. It is also mentioned in every session, as I heard. And we learned many things from our other passengers with disabilities as well. Our team consists of persons with disabilities. We are generally blind and partially sighted, like me, but hard of hearing passengers and passengers with mobility issues also teach us a lot about what should be done and what can be done. And we are trying to shift left accessibility and implement everything in design phase, and make the applications and websites digitally accessible from the beginning to treat everyone equally. So co-design is an important issue, and maybe we have to create different solutions for different needs. Again, Nikki Lilly also mentioned this issue. I think this is, for example, in the passport check lines, face recognition should not only way to authenticate the passenger, maybe. And also in our case, again, in the tech case, accessibility sometimes is treated like a tick the checkbox issue, but it should not the case, actually. This has to be a sustainable process, and accessibility should be mainstreamed in all the workflows, or mainstream in all the workflows of the IT team, actually. And maybe we can do something with these suggestions.
Sorry, is that okay? Thank you so much, Utku. So that's really great. There are some great points there about co-design, about starting early, treating people and lived experience as was mentioned earlier yesterday, as intellectual property. So I think that was great. I'll pass on to Hilal and ask you, as IGA Istanbul Airport delivers a wide range of accessibility services, how do you ensure a consistent end-to-end experience when different stakeholders apply their own standards and definitions of accessibility?
Okay. As I mentioned, consistency is important. And to achieve this consistency, actually, three things become essential. First of all, using the same terminology. And second one, building the same level of awareness. And the third one, providing the same services, ideally under the same names. At IGA Istanbul Airport, we do not only focus on improving the experience of our guests with disabilities, but also we actively take part in solutions that increase global consistency. Now, I would like to share some of our services we designed for people with disabilities and together with people with disabilities. Actually, here you see Engin, Utku, and now here we have Sevda. Now she is my colleague. They were also tester of our services. So first of all, we experienced the airport together with people with different disabilities. Then we get their feedback and designed all these services. Now, in the screen there are 8 photos. In the first photo, you will see a teenager holding a white cane on the tactile paving. So we have My Route feature in our Istanbul Airport mobile application. By using this application, blind people or people with low vision, they can locate themselves, they can explore surrounding, and also they can get voiced routes. So they don't need to get assistant service, they can experience the airport by their own. And the second one, we have information kiosk, digital information kiosks. They are accessible for wheelchair users, and also our passengers can get audiovisual support from our agents, and Turkish, English, Chinese, and also sign language is available on these digital information kiosks. And in the third picture, you will see a screen, mobile phone screen, and there is an agent there. This is video call center. So communicating in sign language is available also through our mobile application and website. The fourth one, IGA Cares dining cabin. When we met with people with crowd or noise sensitivities, cerebral palsy, and also Parkinson's disease, they told us they need more isolation while eating their meal. So this is why we implemented these dining cabins in the food court area. The fifth and sixth photo is from our silent room. Silent room, one of our silent rooms is located in check-in area. This also provides calmer area for noise and crowd sensitivities, but also we have a smaller room which help people using prosthesis. As one of our feedback we get, they sometimes needed to take their prosthesis off and they have to use toilets for this purpose. So they ask us a better area to do this. So we have a smaller room inside these silent rooms. Also we have electric wheelchair stations for people using their own wheelchair. The seventh photo shows our silent room located in flight gate area. These rooms are also designed according to feedback from our passengers. For instance, we have tactile toys, mostly for people with children with autism. We had feedback from them. And we have television inside the room. We have refrigerator, as people with Parkinson's disease told us they need to carry their medicine with them and they have to store it in cold area. And also we have a smaller room in case if they get crisis, they can use these rooms. we have soft walls and also a special toy which makes people with autism or any other people get crisis more calmer. And the last one, Cafe Yanımda. This is actually one of our best service, I will say, because it's designed to be accessible for people with different disabilities. So we have braille menu, the lengths are accessible, or we have again isolated area, cabin for people with craft sensitivities, electric wheelchair station, and also it's actually social impact project because the employees are also people with disabilities. And the revenue is shared with NGOs working with disability groups. So these are examples from our services. You can get more information about our other services in our website or mobile application. So beyond that, to support consistency, we actively share our know-how in detail with other entities, other airports, airlines, or other service providers. And we host joint site visits to transfer this practical experience. We also recognize Sunflower Lanyard program. I think this is one of the best programs because it's recognized by more than 150 airports and airlines. So as our employees and employees of these other airports recognize this lanyard and know that that person wearing this have a hidden disability, so think about a person with autism wearing this lanyard and going from Gatwick Airport to Istanbul Airport. The employees in Gatwick Airport will recognize him. Employees of Turkish Airlines and Istanbul Airport will recognize him. So it provides a seamless end-to-end journey for these people. Another thing, we also partner of one of Erasmus-funded project named Inklave, Inclusive Aviation. Together with academia, IATA, Airlines Association, and ENAT, the European Network for Accessible Tourism, we developed modular open source training models covering all journey touch points. And these models are available on inclave.eu website. Any organization can strengthen its training by selecting the right modules for different roles for their employees. So overall, our approach is twofold. We deliver practical, user-designed accessibility solutions. At the same time, we work with wider ecosystem to drive shared training and shared practices. Thank you.
I hope you were taking notes. There were some really amazing examples there. It's quite really incredible, I think, that to see how an airport really manages to create different opportunities for collaboration between tenanted spaces like the food and beverage, local communities, universities, advocacy groups, and involve them in the process. So that's really, 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 really cool. Thank you so much. Shifting gears here, Hans, I want to ask you from the Airbus perspective and your perspective, as we kind of approach, now we're past the airport and we're going into the plane. What accessibility improvements are technically possible today, but not yet standard, and what would unlock quicker adoption?
Yeah, let's start with what is standard today. So there are some features that are mandatory nearly worldwide. So the regulations always by nationalities or by regions. But this is what we have on nearly all aircraft is, for example, movable armrests, accessible lavatories, or onboard wheelchairs. And what you see on the standards is that the standards we have are mainly for physical topics, for reduced mobility and wheelchair users. And bringing here things forward is, as I explained at the beginning, because it directly affects the aircraft, not in the class of quicker adoptions, I would say. So, and if we talk now about what is in a quicker way possible beyond standards, will be in the field of disabilities related to hearing or visual impairments. Because these challenges are mainly not physical but more related to information, communication and orientation, and here we can support with different means. So I have two areas as example we are working on. So one is the placards in the cabin. So placards that indicate the seat row numbering, or placards that show where the attendant call button is or where the light button is. In Airbus, we changed the placards from language placards already mainly to language-independent placards that use pictograms, and the next step is now to raise the tactile symbols to have tactile placards. We are doing this in a co-design, and we do not only want to make it tactile, but also support people who have low vision by increasing the contrast and the size of the symbols. So, and this is something that is a good example that can be much quicker than other things that require physical changes. But even bringing new placards in the cabin is a long process. Yeah, we are working on that and hope that this will be one of the quick adoptions. And the other area we also look into is what we see here everywhere. It's the digital support to use app-based assistive technology. And we see a lot of app innovations, and as a manufacturer, we do not want to develop our own app. It makes no sense to me to have an app only to be used in the cabin. So you need something along the travel chain. And our task as a manufacturer here is to find solutions how such apps can be connected to information that we have in our aircraft. For example, the lavatory occupied sign. So if you can see on your app if a lavatory is occupied when you are blind, because you can't see the sign red or green at the lavatory. These are features we want to support, not developing our own app, but providing the interface that the companies who are working on that and the startups can connect to that, and we are also working with startups and small companies on this topic. So, and I could now start to talk about the longer lasting things, like we are working on the next generation of accessible single aisle lavatories, and also on the wheelchair topic, traveling on personal wheelchairs, but both of them will not belong to the quicker adoptions.
Thank you, Hans. Yeah, I think that was, a lot of the conversation around accessibility on airplanes does revolve around accessible bathrooms and toilets. It's a huge, huge thing. So that's definitely something that I understand, will take time, but it's definitely a big conversation. I like the app idea. I think that's really interesting if maybe an airline can have an app that also assists you as you are entering the plane, getting your seat, and through your journey, and also exiting. So that's really great. Thank you, Hans. I'd like to turn it over to Michelle here with the last question before we go on to the audience Q&A. In your work at All Wheels Up, where do you see the biggest gap between the accessibility standards that we have and the safety outcomes passengers actually experience? And maybe, I don't know, what single policy change would most immediately reduce harm?
For this is not the wheelchair on the spot question, but what I think is the biggest gap is training. Right now in the United States, under the ACAA, we have mandatory training for the airlines. However, I think as many people, travel, it obviously has room for improvement. In the latest wheelchair rule, they asked for more training. And that's the gap, right? What does more training look like? What we should be asking for and putting into legislation is, what are the metrics behind training? Is it through the occupational therapy lens? Is it a certificate-based course that the industry now has to take? And what does the passing rate look like? So I don't think we're necessarily taking it to the point that the community needs it to be, especially to be safe. In the United States specifically, it is wheelchair pushers, for example, who also do the lifts on airplanes, is the only industry in the United States that get to touch people that aren't accredited and have a certificate to do that. So I think we need to make sure when we're looking at the aviation industry or the airline industry that we're also making sure that we're looking at through the lens of, well, what are the other industries doing when they're working with people with disabilities, and not necessarily sidestep it because it's easier. So that is something that we'd like to see. All Wheels Up has gone all the way to the White House on that topic, and we will continue to voice that. And then separately, I wouldn't say a quick fix on a legislation policy that I'd like to see, but I think what I've always said is that the future for accessible air travel will be a wheelchair spot on airplanes. I do have a little bit more optimism than I think Hans. I'm hoping that we will see it a little sooner, but when we say quick fix, we're not talking 2 years, right? We definitely have, there are still things that have to happen, such as standard creation, and then the OEMs have to go through their certification path. And I know that, people have a lot of questions, and what does that look like? And that's why I'm bringing it up in regards to showing you the pathway that we're close, and we're so close, but there's still a lot of work to be done. I think that's it.
Progress over perfection, right? A lot of work to be done. So thank you for that. I think training also is huge, and it could really bridge a lot of the gaps that are created by the building. Sometimes when you have a good training program that is well implemented, that's accredited, that's well governed, it could actually fix a lot of the problems that the building might have that are much harder to fix. So I really love giving audiences an opportunity to ask questions and to engage with the panelists. So we have about just under 10 minutes, and I want to open it up to the floor for any questions. I'm already seeing 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. Okay. Let's start with the gentleman in the corner. I don't know if we have mic runners, or just speak to your mic on your table.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Umberto. This is my sign name. I am a semi-bald, a white guy. I have a white shirt, a black blazer, and I'll be using an interpreter for my intervention. Thank you very much for the presentations. It was quite interesting looking at it and watching it. And I do want to talk a bit about accessibility of deaf people in aviation services. Well, there is a lot of time what happens that we are treated as people with, as a wheelchair users, or another issue would be that people approach us and start talking quickly. Sometimes I see that there should be a training for people working at the aviation service on how to communicate with people, deaf people. Or they should consider how to not only communicate with deaf people, but also have deaf people inside their companies telling them how to work with deaf people. people. Same as when we work with blind people, you would assume that you'd have a consultancy from blind people on how to work best with blind people. So I just want to make sure that have you taken into consideration how to best approach communication with deaf people? Another question that I want to ask, which is quite a hot topic now, on emergency services. How would you ensure that a deaf person who is at a toilet knows that there is an alarm happening if you don't have any kind of visual signal for deaf people that they need to move, they need to go back to the seat or any other else? Well, these are just two small examples that I want to ask about. And I did approach on deaf perspective, but nobody has spoken about deaf-blind perspective. There is so much to unpack about this. Have you taken into consideration partnering with different stakeholders in unwrapping answers for these questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Roberto. Is there, okay, Engin will take the question.
Thanks a lot for those great questions. Maybe I can I can say something about what we are trying to do about deaf people. Last year we make a very good workshop in June 2025, and there were many people from diverse disability groups. Of course, there were deaf people in that position. And after that workshop, we prepared a very great sign language dictionary about aviation concepts. For example, check-in, boarding, or for example, flight, and all of different aviation concepts about related to deaf people. And those sign language dictionary has finished, and we will now put on to our websites and our YouTube channels about this position. And also, we are trying to make the all announcement in flight, for example, in-flight announcement with sign language consistency. But as Hans also taught, in aviation, making something and changing something could be too slow. Thank you.
I want to add an answer to the lavatory situation. So in case of anticipated turbulences, there will be return to seat sign. Maybe you know it, it's a light. In case of a real emergency landing, the cabin crew will for sure check all the lavatories before landing and not forget anybody in. But we are working on digital support, maybe connected with other devices that the information receives directly also hearing impaired people.
I can add something. At IGA Istanbul Airport, we also have deaf employees and CODA employees. So one of our 4 training modules is about people with hearing impairments. So we also focus on these deaf peoples and also people with low hearing impairments experience. And the other things throughout the airport, yes, we have alarms and also lights to say there is an emergency situation. And in the toilets also we have these lights for this emergency situation.
Thank you so much. I want to add one last thing before we move to another question, but we've seen a lot in where we evaluate airports through our certification program that, you know, there's a lot of things that can be added. The visual fire alarms in places where people are expected to be alone is one of them. Assistive listening technologies as well that can be implemented in various kinds of, whether information desks or check-in desks, like hearing loops, Bluetooth systems, those kinds of T-coils, things like that are really wonderful, and screens that can double up as informational kind of means of communication is also one of the things, just to name a few. Let's do another question, please. There's a lady, Julie.
Thank you. Oh, that's loud. My name is Julie Sawchuk. I am from Canada, and I am a wheelchair user. And my question is about washrooms on airplanes. Can you, and Hans, maybe this is a question for you, can you talk about the co-design process, if that's being used, and what that looks like from your perspective?
Yes. So exactly for this topic, we are doing some work currently. As you know, in the US, there's a new regulation on single aisle lavatories that they need to provide the opportunity for an assisted transfer with 2 tall persons in. So this is why we are currently looking into the next generation of single aisle lavatories. And yeah, here we started with the typical collection of pain points, inviting, I think it was around about 30 people with different disabilities, not only the ones for the transfer, visually impaired, blind, low vision, cognitive impairments, medical impairments, and collected the pain points. And then we started the process with our industrial designers, with the design office, the engineers, to make prototypes. And these prototypes then have been tested, reviewed, different versions, again with a group of people, in this case around about 20. Also again with a wide scope of different disabilities. This is important especially also in the area of physical impairments, because sometimes the handhold that you install somewhere will block a transfer, and it's really important to test with people who can really judge about that. And of course, it's always not enough, because the needs are so individual. But yeah, to involve, we always learn a lot and do a lot of changes in our design. But of course, after designing such lavatories over a longer time, we have already quite good assumptions. Many things are confirmed of what we are doing, but yeah, it's important to involve. And to add this, we have a lot of employees in Airbus who have disabilities. So this is also a source we use for to involve them, also having them in the project team. Oh, I see a 0 on the clock. Okay, but we also work with external organizations that help us to organize the test persons.
Thank you, Hans. So we are unfortunately at time. I wish we could take more questions, but please feel free to see us, after this. But I'd like to thank our lovely panelists that came to speak about so many things from such different angles about accessibility. So thank you, Engin, Utku, Ilal, Hans, and Michelle so much. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate your presence here, and progress over perfection. It's a complex industry, aviation, and we're all part of it because we fly a lot. But I hope you learned something today, and something that you can take onwards into your conversations in your organization, and that this was useful. So thank you so much, and have a great rest of your conference. Thank you. Let's do a picture.